pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Coach Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Coach Brown. Here's our guest menu for today, June 22nd. Charles Edmond, Willie Brown, and Richard Morgan Williams will join us later in the show. Here's what's trending on the Coach Brown Show. The SWAC announced contract extension for Dr. McClellan. The NCAA presents a new basketball tournament model. NBA 2024 champions have been crowned. They are the Boston Celtics. Willie Mays, iconic baseball player, passes away. And last but not least, SWAC basketball tournament to expand. Charles Edmond will give us that information as far as the SWAC basketball tournament to expand. Nothing official yet, but that's what's trending on the Coach Brown Show. We're going to bring in now the panel, Charles Edmond and A.D. Willie Brown. Charles, good morning to you. Willie Brown, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Saturday. And we usually start off the show, Charles. You're in St. Louis, a native of St. Louis. Will in Baltimore, and I'm in Baton Rouge. Wow, don't you just love technology? We can be in all different places, but we're on the same page, hopefully. A lot to talk about on today's show. The what's trending, the topics, if you want to call them that. So let's get right into it. The SWAC announced contract extension for Dr. McClellan, and I will say that I am all in favor for this extension. In my humble opinion, he has done an outstanding job. With that being said, the extension will run through the 2032 academic year, which was announced on Friday morning. Here's a quote from the SWAC Council of Presidents and Chancellors Chairman Quentin T. Ross Jr. Over the course of the past 5 years, the Southwestern Athletic Conference has made significant strides towards becoming one of the most widely recognized and visible athletic conferences in the country. The visionary and dynamic leadership of Commissioner McClellan has helped propel our conference to prominence on the national stage while also increasing the availability of financial resources that have positively impacted the overall student-athlete experience. With that being said, congratulations to Dr. McClellan. Charles, it's to 2032.
Yeah, we talk about lengths of contracts for coaches, but for Dr. McClellan to get that type of extension, the council obviously feels like the conference is in good hands with Dr. McClellan leading the way. He's done a really, really good job. I know him personally, know his family. He's done a really good job. The expansion of the conference, just from a financial perspective, we talk at these different championships. He says the conference is on solid financial footing, a lot better than when he took it over. So I think, those are just some of the things that stand out for me. So I'm glad that he's got that extension. And so the media, there's some things on the poll that, I'm sure a lot of our fans are kind of anxious about right now. Now they got this extension, as far as the media rights, how that's going to look going forward, because I think that contract's coming up, or the renewal of it. So I think fans are going to be interested to see how that's going to go. But, from what he's done, looking back, I think he's done an outstanding job. The conference is in good hands. You just look at the awards that these players are getting, these postseason awards, how it looks, and upgrading the hardware that they get. Just little small things that we might not see, but student athletes see. And that's what it's all about. So I'm happy that Dr. McClellan has got this extension. Conference is in good hands, and let's go. There's always some questions, though. There's always some things on the poll that we'll talk about. SWAC basketball tournament, where that's going to look, where it's going to go, and the expansion of it. We'll talk about that. But I think right now, Dr. McClellan is doing a really good job. And I guess, Carlos, I'm kind of confused in a way as well. I look at the posts on social media. I think you would say the vast majority of people are in support of Dr. McClellan. There's some people that think it's time to move on. And of course, the council president felt otherwise, but I'm trying to figure what issues do they have with Dr. McClellan in terms of what he's not done. I'm kind of confused, but you're not going to satisfy everybody. And so there's some people that will not like you regardless, just like in this case. But for the most part, Dr. McClellan has done an outstanding job, and I think this extension is well deserved.
Wheeler, there's an old saying, you can't make everybody happy, or you try to please everybody all the time. You will go crazy if you try to do that. With that being said, go ahead, Wheeler.
And ain't no need in trying, Carlos.
Nope.
You know, those that are in your corner are going to be in your corner. Those that are on the opposite side, they're going to stay on the opposite side. Let them stay over there. At least you know where they're coming from, and they're upfront and honest with the way that they feel, and that's okay. You know, everybody's entitled to their opinion, whatever that means. But, you know, I'm with Charles and with you. You know, Dr. McClellan definitely deserved you know, all the accolades that he's gotten. He's done a great job. No ifs, ands, and buts about that. And, you know, no reason why he should not continue to do a great job. You know, he's definitely a conference-friendly kind of guy. You know, listens to his people, that sort of thing, and, you know, pretty much acts accordingly. Nobody can question whether or not he has the best interest of the student athlete at heart. Yeah, and I mean, he fights for his people, and that's what you want out of a conference commissioner. And you know, I see nothing but great things ahead.
Right. You look at from the financial stability. You've improved that, and that to me, that's number one. I know, and Charles, I try not to, and I must admit, sometimes I dip and look into social media, and it is what it is. It can be brutal at times, but those who are not in favor, or on the other side, as we'll look at it, they look at the for the TV contract, and you know, there's some litigation going on as far as from a court battle, you know, over certain things. So, hey, you can't please everybody, like I said earlier, and you definitely will go mad trying to.
And you know, Carlos, not to interrupt you, very quickly, but you know, he has the best interest of the conference at heart. You know, most of the people who are against him are against him because of something that may have happened to their school that they didn't like, or something pertaining to their institution that maybe they didn't like. You know, but when you're the conference commissioner, you know, your charge is to be the guy for all the schools. And that, you can't imagine how difficult that is. You know, you got to have Valley in mind as much as you have Jackson State in mind, as much as you have Prairie View in mind. You know, so you have to shape and formulate your ideas to fit all 12 or 13 of those schools, and not just your bottom dwellers or your top dwellers or what have you. So, I mean, I can only imagine how tough that is.
Carlos, let me add one other quick caveat here with this. And I think this is something, when I interviewed the commissioner at the softball tournament, I think he wanted to get this point across. I think a lot of people, maybe some, maybe many, believe that the conference office is the start of the process, when the conference office is nothing more than a facilitator. All the heavy lifting and all the hard work is done at the coaches level, the ADs level, the senior administrators level, the chancellor's level, and at the president's level. The conference office gets those rules approved prior to them administrating the rules. The conference office is nothing more than an administrative process. So even though the commissioner might have some ideas, there's nothing that can be implemented until it's been approved prior to them getting it. And so I think maybe some people might think or assume that the conference office is at the beginning of the process. they're at the end of the process. Now, the commissioner might interject from time to time with some ideas, but it can't be made into law until it's been approved by, all the people in front of him. So I think sometimes people think that the commissioner is just doing this willy-nilly. He's not. All this stuff is done.
You're exactly right, Charles. You are exactly right. It's the Council of Presidents that call the shots.
That's right.
Don't let anybody think anything differently than that. And Dr. McClellan, his job is to come up with great ideas and throw those things out there on the table, see what sticks and all that sort of thing. But bottom line, at the end of the day, it's the Council of Presidents that's going to make the decisions, and everybody else is going to kowtow and get in line and implement and do those things necessary to try to make it work. And that's it.
Yeah, the commissioner's bosses are the 12 presidents. Then just like the NCAA president, his boss or her boss are the collegiate presidents. So I think, and when I interviewed him at the softball tournament, I think he really wanted to get that home, because I think a lot of people feel like it starts with him, starts with the conference office. It doesn't. It's kind of the end. Now, he might have some ideas, as I mentioned. He might interject, but he can't implement anything without those votes. So whether it's the change of the basketball tournament or whatever the case may be, the change of venue, all that has to be approved. So he might have some ideas, but he can't implement unless the Council of Presidents approves it. And most of the time, I'm sure they probably will, especially now since he's got a new, fresh 8-year deal. I think him being over the basketball committee, I think that helps. If you look at his resume, as we know, he's been an AD at 2 SWAC schools, Texas Southern and Prairie View, and look at where those schools were when he left them compared to where he started. So I think if you just look at his track record, even though you've had changes in presidents, I think people look at Dr. McClellan's track record, and I think if you just be honest about it, he's done an outstanding job. Are there bumps in the road? Absolutely. But I think he's got the temperament, he's got the personality to kind of navigate through it. He's very calm. His demeanor is very calm and low-key and very professional. And I think that helps, at least for me, helps sells it at the end of the day.
Well, I was just looking at a comment that was just put up, and a lot of times I don't like to, address certain things, but then I want to address that. So if we can't put it back up, I will go and Will, you're laughing. You saw it, huh?
Yeah, I saw it.
Let me paraphrase it. Won't say anything negative. Oh man, put those quotes that quote back up. Now I'm gonna have to go in here and look at it. Why I don't see it? Why I don't see it? What happened to it? It said Chuck Hunt. Come on, Chuck.
No.
It was pertaining to your SWAC credentials.
Yeah.
For the sport event.
No, Chuck. No.
I like Chuck Hunt. I have met Chuck Hunt for the first time a few years ago. Chuck Hunt is on all these spaces. He's on every podcast. He chimes in. He's on a lot of different radio shows, Paul Feinbaum and others. I love Chuck Hunt, and he's very passionate about HBCU. He's a Grambling guy. But no, that has nothing to do with it. The SWAC is very they really do vet those credentials. And yes, I'm blessed and fortunate to be working with the SWAC Digital Network, but I'm also honest and realistic in terms of where we are and where we're not at times. So I think the conference, and to be perfectly honest, the conference likes that. When we talked about this new scheduling model with the women's playing on Thursdays and Saturdays, the potential of that happening, the conference really enjoyed that breaking news because they wanted to get a temperature in terms of where fans feel about it. And I think depending on who breaks it and how it's done, the conference appreciates that because they want to know the feedback from the fans, because that helps shape what they're going to do if it's approved up and down the line. So, no, I don't think that has anything to do with it. I respect Chuck's opinion on it. But as far as the credentials and everything, trust me, every credential I submit and what my team is vetted and looked at, and that's just the way I look at that.
Well, you see how I'm looking. Over my long career, I've had credentials locally rejected from a personal opinion, and I had to go to a board of supervisor member to get it reversed because it was personal. And a lot of these things I see, particularly on social media, sometimes it's personal. You don't like the job the commissioner's doing, give the reasons. And most of the time when I look, it's about, quote unquote, the television contract. Some things you can't talk about, like Grambling State and FAMU. You remember when with their individual television contract, and now it's in litigation. So a lot of it is personal. But no, Chuck, I love you to death, native Louisianan. No, if my credentials got yanked, if they give me a good reason, fine. But I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not going to fall out. I'm not going to go on a hunger strike. I'm not going to move to Tibet. I'm not going to grow hair again. I'm bald.
And you have to remember when you're a member of a conference, you are bound to abide by the conference rule, the conference regulations, even though it may not be, quote unquote, in the best interest of your individual institution, or maybe you could go out there and find a better deal for your individual institution. There have been a lot of times when, in your mind, you want to step out because, you know that your school has a better brand than school X or school Y, and you probably be able to do so much better from a financial point of view, but you understand that you're a member of a conference
and that
and
supersedes.
that deals are made for the totality of the conference, not just for, like I said, the top schools who naturally getting all the publicity and things of that nature. You're a part of a team. And you're expected to play team ball. And all the time it's not going to be to your advantage from an individual point of view. But you have to continue to tell yourself that you're part of a team. You got to be a good team member.
Well, I will say this, Carlos.
You can agree to disagree, but there's a process involved with all of this. And Dr. McCullough also brings a 5-year appointment as a member of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Committee.
Yeah.
And so those are positive things. And Willie, you're right. It's a team situation, and team supersedes individuals. Now, you can go and make other, deals, but the conference supersedes all others. And that's just the way it is. Now, unless you want to leave the conference, then that's another story. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, I will say this. Okay, so he's got a new deal, and we know what he's done if you look back at his track record leading up to this point.
And now, it's 8 years. 8 years. 8 years. So don't tell me about 2 years, okay?
Yeah. So let's look forward. Let's look at some of the things that are on our plate right now, really on all schools' plate. This settlement that is going to impact all schools, including the SWAC, including the commissioner is a numbers guy. He's an accounting guy. He admits that, and he's got a background in that. So media day is coming up here in less than a month. I'm going to be, if I have the opportunity to talk to him, what's that going to look like? Because that's going to be a question, I'm sure, for every president, every CFO to think about how much of an impact, if any, is the conference office and or our schools going to be with this settlement. I think that's because, our president's all about numbers and money. So that's, we'll see how that. Now, I've heard there's not going to be that much of an impact, but I think it'll be somewhat of an impact. We'll see how that goes. Just the media contracts, with ESPN and HBCU Go, people are not necessarily happy with that kind of thing, but we'll see how that goes. So there will be some things on his plate that he has to look at going forward. He's done a good job at this point. Now you've got another layer of things to think about that he has to think about. And we'll see how that goes going forward, because this college landscape is changing. It's changed in the last 6 months. It has changed, and so we'll see how this goes. And again, if he can navigate through that, then I think people will be even more impressed with just the things that he's done.
Those who will be on your side, they will be impressed. Those Those who are not, they are still not going to change their way. And I wouldn't waste not another minute, another second on that. He will address the state of the conference at SWAC Football Media Day as he always does. And the good outweighs the bad. You know, it has to be interesting when Coach Graves weighs in about the commission. But to wrap it all up, because we got to get to a timeout, he's doing a great job. He's doing an outstanding job. And he has a new contract extension to 2032. And I look for bigger and brighter things. Now, Charles, quickly, I'm still upset because when you look at this settlement, it's not proportioned right. The power forward, whatever you want to call them, they're going to foot less of the bill than those on the other side of the coin, and that's going to be tough. You know, trickle down. You want to call it that? We shall see. So I guess it will have to be some tightening up of the belts.
Mm-hmm.
At least for one side. On the other side, it won't affect them as much. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll, of course, get into SWAC announces McCullough's contract extension. When we come back after this timeout, the NCAA presents a new basketball tournament model. They're talking about expanding. Oh, my goodness. How will that change the landscape of college athletics? We'll take a timeout. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Topic What's trending number 2? The NCAA presents a new basketball tournament model. Charles, do you and Willa, do you like the tournament as is with the number of participating teams? Are you open for expansion? If you are open for expansion, how many teams? In the article, it talks about 4 to 8 teams expansion. Now, and we're talking, I guess, on men's and the women's side.
Yeah, for me, I like the NCAA tournament as it was, but I understand the expansion aspect. You got more teams, that potentially is more money, but I would like to see how that's going to impact the SWAC and the MEAC in terms of maybe getting an at-large in there. The one trick pony, as Wheeler Brown has said one time, the one trick pony, one team in the NCAA tournament. I would love to see it at large. I don't think it's going to open up the window for that large for us, but I like it as it is. More games, and you know what this is tailored for. It's tailored for the power 3.5, whatever it is you want to call it.
Wow, it keeps shrinking, Charles. It was 5 and it's 4 now, 3.5.
Next week it'll be the power 2, but it's that's what it's tailored for, because you have those schools with big alums and big budgets that get left out. So now you add those teams. I mean, you hear the potential of 96 teams. I hope it doesn't get to be that big, because again, I want to be asking the same question: are we going to get another conference team from the SWAC and MEAC as an at-large with 96 teams? But I like it as it was, and I like it with the expansion of 4 more. I just hope that we get another player to the table, as well as the automatic bid.
If it's not going to benefit our schools, then I'm definitely dead set against it. No doubt about that. And if the other rules aren't going to change, as Charles was stated, if we're not going to be allowed to get an extra team into the tournament, why even think about expanding? Because for us, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to move the needle for us at all.
Yeah, I think I kind of like as is. And we've had the conversation of how it would be nice to get an at-large bid, but we also have discussed the reasons why not and the reasons why it could happen. And, we still go on about that as well. But they're talking about expanding to 4 to 8. Then, you have your play-in site in Dayton. In the article they were talking about, now you would need another place besides Dayton to be able to host that. So it moves the needle on a lot of things that have to happen for it to be successful. Now, I just told you I'm happy with as is, but
it's going to change.
If it changes, when it changes, it sounds like it is going to change.
Yeah.
Then you have to adjust as well. And later on, we're going to be discussing about the SWAC basketball tournament expanding. Oh my goodness, that's another discussion. But it looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It will have to go through the committee. Then the committee will go through the process of ironing out everything, and then it'll come up for a vote. I think it will happen, but for the record, I like it the way it is.
And guys, I want to see a blueprint. I want to see a blueprint for how we can get more teams into the tournament. A conference blueprint for both the MEAC and the SWAC. In terms of how can we make this happen? There's got to be a formula out there somewhere. But as Charles states all the time, it's going to take all of the schools in the conference abiding by that particular formula. Your top schools, it can't just be relegated to your top schools. Everybody in the conference has to abide by that formula if we're going to have a chance to get that extra team into the conference. Yeah, so I would hope that at some point in time, and maybe it's something I can do. I don't know. I'm not that smart though, but we can, that somebody can come up with a formula, financially and otherwise, that's going to help all the schools in the conference kind of meet that particular criteria for getting that second bid into the tournament.
Well, the
Well,
commissioner is on the committee. He knows what the committee is looking for, and so if there can't be a better resource than the chairman of the NCAA basketball committee that knows
That's true.
what I mean. There just can't. And he's talked about this. We even talked about it at the softball tournament. What can be done going forward? And he even mentioned, don't play these hard games early in the season. Season starts in early to mid-November. Instead of playing Duke, instead of playing UConn in November, play them in December. Now, again, that's going to require your athletic director and coaches kind of, get together, everybody on one page in terms of the type of scheduling, the quad two, all that. And I'm with Wheeler Brown. It should happen. We all should be on the same page, but we're not. And I don't think we're going to. Just to be brutally, using your phrase, Carlos, brutally honest, I don't see it happening because there's so much financial pressure to bring in $800,000, $900,000 from your men's basketball non-conference schedule. There's pressure there, underneath the surface to get that done. Johnny Jones has it. We have it. I talked with Landon Bussey not too long ago. He says he's got to bring in, so he didn't give a dollar amount, but I saw the schedule on his whiteboard. I can give you the schedule. It's not brutal, but it's very, very challenging in terms of he's going to probably bring in 700,000 plus based on the games that I've seen on his board. So when you're told that, then I think unless you've gotten with the other ADs throughout the league to kind of be on the same plane, everybody's kind of doing what they feel like they need to do. And it's just unfortunate. And I don't know if we're really interested in that at-large deal, to be quite honest. I would like to see it, Carlos, you, Wheeler Brown. I'd love to see a second team in there to get an at-large. But do I see it happening anytime soon? No, I do not. But if there's one resource that can help guide you to at least give you a blueprint, it is the commissioner, because he's in that room. He's over the committee. He knows what they're thinking. He knows what they're talking about. So I think that would be a good resource. Whether we use it or not, I don't know.
As these teams get into their conference schedule, the thought of playing somebody out of conference, you can pretty much scratch that. Especially those Power 3.5 schools, that sort of thing. As they get into their conference schedule, they're not going to take a break to play Jackson State or to play Mississippi Valley or something like that. They're pretty much focused on that conference schedule. So, in terms of changing the dates, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, at least for this year anyway. Maybe in 2025 or 2026, you could take a look at it. But right now, I think probably 60 to 70% of these schedules, non-conference, is already done. Our women's schedule is already done in non-conference. I got it in my phone, so it's pretty much done. I think only thing we can do is go forward. Maybe next season at this time, talk about it. But I don't see it happening, Carlos. I just don't. I hate to say it because I love my conference. I would love to see it at large as well as the automatic, but I don't see it happening.
The expression on my face, folks, we go over and over about this. I'm almost disgusted. Next year we'll have the same discussion. There is a blueprint out there to how to get it done, but they're not going to follow it. And you just stated they got to bring $700,000-$800,000. So I'm almost ready to end the discussion. Why even talk about it?
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God. It's and again, what incentive? I know you have to bring in X amount of dollars. Texas Southern, we've talked about it before. It seems like you can see where that money is going, but all the other money is going to maintain the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still going to happen. Playing all those conference games, we've had coaches on. We've had ADs on. They've talked about it.
Yeah.
We use the word balance. There is, Will, a blueprint out there. It was. The first one that I remembered was a guy Floyd Kerr, God rest his soul. He had a blueprint. You play a couple of those guarantee games. Then the next section, you play games against, what's the other term we used to use? Mid-majors. Right? And then
guys we can beat.
Yeah, I have a chance. And then you have another slot that you play games against maybe bigger schools in an alumni area. Like Dallas is big, Houston is big. So you play a few of those games. But what we do see is 9, 10, 11, 12 games, guarantee games that they have to bring in. So until that mindset changes, we'll be talking about this in 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028. Stop me if you want to. 2029, 2030.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. So,
but like I was telling you
it is
guys
what it is
earlier, Carlos, if I can get that $1 million guarantee football wise, then I'm cutting back on the number of games that basketball has to play. Maybe instead of 9, they can play 7 now or 6 or what have you, because I got that $1 million guarantee football wise. But, somehow you're going to have to get the dollars from somewhere, and I mean, I don't know what the other remedy is right now. So I mean, the budget is going to be the budget. If you're going to survive and try to thrive, you got to find a way to try to get it done. If you're depending on the media contract and all these other things that are out there, putting somebody's logo on a football field, you ain't doing nothing but kidding yourself. And if you think that that's going to be the be all end all, in terms of trying to get rid of these other revenue streams, you're going to have to utilize what's available. And like I always say, try to make a healthy balance out of it if you can. But it's difficult, and you damn if you do, damn if you don't, Carlos. I mean,
the one thing we don't talk about, Carlos, enough, in addition to those 9 conference games, which we're all playing on the road, the last time I checked, we do have 9 home games. We do have 9 home games in the conference. So how much of an opportunity is that, and how much of an opportunity is it wasted that we're not filling up our arenas? And even though it's not gonna be a slam dunk financially, there is opportunities to make money at home. But now it appears as if that's going to change, because now all of a sudden, and we'll talk about it, it appears as if the men are going to have their own days, Saturdays and Mondays. On Saturdays, it's a doubleheader. Men will have their own games, their day. We'll talk about that. But you got 9 home games. Can you make some revenue, not necessarily to balance it out, but there's a revenue opportunity? And how many of us draw well in basketball to where at home in conference, to where it's not going to make a big dent, but it makes somewhat of a dent?
Well, I would offer to you, I would be excited. Let's just say I didn't host a podcast. I didn't do any of that. And then my basketball team, we're going to use that for example. They went on the road and they played all these guarantee games. And I got some discretionary dollars. Let's just say I'm not a millionaire. I'm not in the upper income. I have a family of 4 or 5. I'm not excited for the home opportunity, because why? They went on the road and played 9 or 10 games, and may sprinkle in an upset or 2 there, 1 or 2. But then the non-conference record is horrible. Now, we got somebody in the chat room, EA, and says, let me read this again, because the problem is not the guarantee games. The problem is the basketball programs can't keep the money for their programs. Well, 2 things can be right at the same time. But again, I tell you, play a lot of those guarantee games. Play them if you want to. What happens if they're cut out and you can only schedule maybe 2 or 3, or you just can't get those games? You're still going to have to be an athletic director. You're still going to have a balanced budget. You're still going to have to bring in finances. I say this: too many guaranteed games. Let's have a balance. Now, it's going to make Willa Brown's job a little bit harder. Not that it's not already hard, but back to my original thing. I have no incentive as a fan, just a fan part of me. I will have people tell me you got to support the university because you're an alum, correct? But 2-12, 2-10, and again, there have been some exceptions. This past season, Jackson State, Southern, they won on the road. But come on, man. When you have those many games, yeah, you have an opportunity to do well at home, but the fan base is not engaged. Now, if they had 2 or 3 guarantee games, then the next group gets mid-majors. They win 3 or 4 of those games. Then they win 2 or 3 of those games in the area of where your biggest alumni are at. Doesn't that record have the fans a little bit more enthusiastic? If they're 4-7, 6-8, then playing all those guarantee games, and you come in with a 1-11 record, but you don't have to worry about that. It's just about winning the conference. That's right. The first and foremost goal. Yes, duh, you got to win the conference, but come on, man, it got to be. You still got to have the attitude of we're trying to put the best schedule forward, a balanced schedule, and we try to win those games because we're competitors. And then we also want our fan base to be somewhat excited. But hell, they're not going to be excited. I know I'm not. Maybe I should just speak for myself. Shame, Willa.
Carlos,
shame,
Carlos,
shame on the AD. Shame on the AD.
It's a hard job. You know, I mean, how excited are you going to be? How more excited you going to be if after a 10-game swing you come back 5-5 instead of 2-8?
It's sure a hell lot better than 1-11.
Or let me add a caveat to that, Wheeler Brown. I mean, if you come back 5-5 and you've beaten, some quality teams, but then you stumble in the SWAC and then you're a first round exit in the SWAC tournament, which is gonna get more of the conversation. You went 5-5, you beat UCLA, you beat Michigan State, you beat Ole Miss, but then you stumble in the league, you get some guys hurt, and then
it don't mean nothing. And it don't mean
fans are going to talk about that, unfortunately, more so than what you did in November, December. For me personally, Carlos, I'm speaking for me. I get excited for all the games, whether we're playing Ole Miss or whether we're playing Mississippi Valley, because I understand the whole dynamic of it, because I know our fans and I know administrations judge what you do in conference. There hasn't been a coach in this league, Carlos, on the men's side that's gotten fired after non-conference after going 0-11. If I'm not mistaken, the earliest the men's coach in this league has been fired in conference was Byron Rim III. 6 games in the conference, he was 1-5. He was fired. So coaches in this conference don't get fired until the end of the year, end of their contract. And I guarantee you, this is just my own opinion, you go 0-12, 0-13, you brought in $750,000.
Wow.
The president is going to be upset, but if you go 16-2 in the conference, make it to the finals, I think fans will forgive that. I hate to say it, but I just think that's just the reality of where we are right now.
That's horrible.
I get your point.
That is horrible.
It is, but just our fans.
Our mindset.
And then your budget's still going to be in the red, Carlos, regardless. Either way it goes.
Because
I don't believe that there was a school in this conference who made budget last year. Now, I could be wrong. And everybody's got to show something
Wait a minute.
Okay,
With
at
all
the
these
end of the
guarantee
day,
games,
to say that it was okay. Okay, but I'm willing to bet you a dime to $1 donuts. Okay,
I'll
that
take the donuts.
99, 98, 99% of the schools in this conference came in the red at the end of the year.
Are you talking about overall, or are you talking about basketball?
Wait a minute.
They're honest. No, I'm talking period. If
Oh,
they're
overall,
honest,
yeah.
if they're honest about
you know
the
what?
numbers.
That's sad, because all of those guarantee games, what do you have to show for it?
Well, I mean, okay, so let's use an example here. There's an example we can use right off the bat.
Do we need to do a math equation?
No. I mean, this is easy math. Easy math. You got Texas Southern, for example. Johnny Jones just got a contract extension. Johnny Jones is pushing well over $200,000 a year. If he's bringing in $800,000 in guarantees, okay, you look at his salary plus fringe benefits. Okay, he's got 5 coaches, 6 assistant coaches. They're all making pretty good coin. He's got about 5 or 6 coaches, assistant coaches, full-time dealing with basketball. You got to add that into the equation. So by the time you put those numbers together and you look at the guarantees, how much you got left, then you got travel. Then you got other expenses with your program. You got stuff that you need to get for your program. So at the end of the day, and I don't know how much Texas Southern is supplementing some of this stuff. I don't know. But if you just look at the raw numbers, it's a tough balancing act. You may be a little bit in the black, you may be a little bit in the red. I don't know, but you just look at those numbers, just basic stuff. I think,
and Carlos, that money's spent before it comes in the door. That money's already spent. It's spent before it comes in the door. So the only teams that are seeing that windfall is like your spring sports. It's like tennis and golf and softball and baseball. They're the ones that's seeing the residual for when those checks actually come in, because we all got expenses in advance. So we spent that $800,000 before it comes in the door. It's gone. So it ain't a whole lot of flipping and everything that you can even think about trying to do. You know, because you're spending house money before the real money even comes in.
And then, Carlos, there's one other factor. It's called scholarships.
I'm glad. Yep, scholarships, insurance for those scholarships.
One thing about scholarships, Emmanuel Barnes, my mentor, he used to work in student affairs for 40 years, and he said this. And it's even proven if you read some of the articles, for example, LSU. If you're a student athlete and you get a scholarship, yes, you don't have to pay that scholarship, but that scholarship still has to be paid to the university. Somebody's paying for it. Somebody's paying for it, whether athletic foundation, athletics in their budget, that $20,000 a semester is being paid for somewhere. It's coming from someplace. So that might come out of that budget too. So you're looking at 63 football scholarships. You can kind of work the numbers there. You got 13 basketball scholarships times whatever the tuition is. That's a significant amount of money. So I mean, all this can be investigated, and I think it doesn't get talked about enough. We talk about the guarantees, but we don't talk about the other stuff. The scholarships eat up a lot of that athletic budget when you look at 11.7 baseball, 63 football, basketball.
Let me say this, Charles. I've been doing this like 20 years, and I'm going to pat myself on the back. Maybe we hadn't talked about it enough, but I've had several shows about the very thing that you're talking about, the things that the average fan doesn't see, including me, that you don't think about. The late, great, I'm going to reference him again, Floyd Kerr, did several shows locally about that. And it's a tough situation. Also, we have a colleague, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, who did some research on how tough it is to be in athletics in Division I, and in all sports, except football, but still is Division I. He came to my house and he showed me some things And if you put it all out there, the thought was maybe the conference, our type of schools, maybe we're in the wrong division. Can we really afford to do it? But then pride will come in and say, no, we don't even want to think about that.
And it's beyond pride, Carlos. It's beyond pride.
It was factual things that
the simple matter. The simple matter of the fact is that if you think about going down to D2, don't think you're going down to D2 with the same budget you had D1, because you're not getting the NCAA dollars that you were getting when you were in Division I. So if you think the cupboard is bare now, go down to D2.
I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it, because you worked on that level.
It's really going to be bare. You know, you don't have the same revenue sharing model as you do in Division I. You know, you're not getting those same dollars from the March Madness contract, things of that nature. You know, you're not getting the same amount in terms of guarantees, you know, when you're playing different schools and stuff like that. You know, the scholarship level is definitely different. There's no doubt about that. You're going from 63 down to 36. You know, but I mean, bottom line, outside of the prestige factor, you know, those that are thinking about going down from Division I to Division II, you know, they need to think twice if they think they're going down with the same budget. Southern got a $16 million budget right now. They ain't taking $16 million down to D2.
Well, we have to. No, I understand that point, but the way that, and I say the way we are running things now, I think we have to. We always talk about athletics as ever changing, and I think our policies and the way we have done business, we're going to have to evolve as well. You can't. What was the saying that they gave me? You can't in 2024 run by a 1990s model. It just won't work. Now, I've had a car that was a 2001, and it did very well. It was kept up by the previous owner, and then I took it over, and then I tried to keep it up as best as I could. But eventually, those parts get old. Eventually, they go out, and if I'm spending so much money on those parts, I decided, you know what? I'm getting me another car, a new one with less problems. All I'm saying is we just have to look at ways of conducting athletic business, and we have a lot of talented people that can help us to do that. But when we go back, those guaranteed games that they play, football, basketball, hell, Grambling got $1 million, happy for them. But man cannot live by bread alone. Those guaranteed games and all of those basketball games, you can continue to have them. You can. But the conversation we'll have will still be in the same. It's like we're in the slow lane on the interstate. You know, that's usually the right lane, right? And then the other two lanes are for faster traffic. We don't want to be always in the right lane. 11:57 Central Standard Time.
Yeah.
Chat room is bumping. I got people disagreeing with me, agreeing. You gotta love it.
What we also have to look at, I mean, we've had this conversation before, athletics as a whole. So football brings in the vast majority of the money. Then you got men's basketball. And I saw Dr. Cavill's post about how Texas Southern men's basketball is in the black. And I wouldn't be surprised because they bring in so much, and the university, I don't know how, you know.
They are the exception to the rule.
They are an exception, absolutely. And they've been the exception. I mean, they do this every year, whether it was Mike Davis, whether it's Johnny Jones, you know, Ronnie Courtney, I don't know, but they've been doing this for a long time. So they know how to do that. But overall, when you look at the overall athletic program, all 14, 15 sports, whatever it is, when you look at what football brings in and loses in the other sports, how many of our athletic programs, as Wheeler Brown mentioned, as a former administrator, is going to be in the red, and how deep in the red at the end of the day. If you're in the red by a couple of pennies, like he mentioned not too long ago, as a president, you're happy with a small loss instead of a huge loss in which you've got to find a way to make up for that loss. But how many of our athletic programs, we're talking about SWAC and maybe in the MEAC, for those who might know, maybe Dr. Cavill might know, that from one fiscal year to the next, that athletic program in totality brought home a profit? Has that happened? When was the last time it happened? What school was it? When was it? I would like to know that. I mean, I'm not as data driven as some others, but that's one that I would like to know. And hey, I would applaud them for it, because it is not easy when you're talking about a football program that's struggling with attendance, and then men's basketball's got to prop it up. Women's basketball, their guarantees are nowhere even close to what the men are bringing in. And so, but they got the same expenses, though. They got to play 18 conference games, 9 on the road and all that. Baseball, softball. I mean, so when you add it all up, how many of our HBCU, MEAC, and SWAC programs in totality are in the black from one year to the next? I like to know that, just as a conversation's sake. And like, yeah, somebody's doing something right, and how are they doing it?
How many exclude HBCUs? How many? And you can go to USA Today. They had several articles about, do you know the majority of athletic programs in this country are
in the red?
So it's just not exclusive to HBCU institutions. So again, how do we change this? How do we change the narrative? How do we change the business practice? Should we continue to do as is, or do we look at doing something else?
I think the question becomes, Carlos, can it be changed? Can it be changed? Not necessarily how.
And if it can't, what does that say?
Is it a possibility?
And if it can't, what happens?
Then that's a good question. That's a really good question. You know, I've been at schools where they borrowed monies from auxiliary services every year. Auxiliary services is pretty much the only entity on your campus that's really making money. You know, your dorms, your cafeteria, you know, all those are bookstore, all those are your auxiliary services folk are really the only ones that are carrying a profit from year to year. Everybody else is operating in the red almost, Carlos. You know, and I've been at a school where I've borrowed from auxiliary services almost on a yearly basis because I couldn't carry over a deficit from year to year. So I borrowed $1 million, I borrowed 1.5, I borrowed $2 million on a premise that, hey, I get it back to y'all when I can. And I'm still trying to get it back.
Oh, wow.
And I know that is par for the course. You know, a lot of schools are doing the same thing. You know, but they have to say that they're in the black simply because their rules won't allow for the budget to carry over in the red from year to
negative.
Year.
Right.
So you can twist and turn those numbers, Carlos, to say what you want them to say. But we all know if you're sitting at that table, that 1 and 1 don't equals 2. It ain't happening. You know, you know that when that budget year rolls over to July 1 and you start spending house money, you know, before you get through football season, you're wondering how you're going to get through the spring. And I'm telling you, damn near every AD is going through that process. Come December, when they're going home for Christmas to see Santa Claus and all that kind of stuff, they're wondering if some stockings going to be hung by the fireplace, okay, that's going to help them get through spring semester.
You know, that's interesting if you think about it. Santa Claus, a guy comes down your chimney in a red suit and doesn't. I'll stop there. Fan engagement. We've talked about the model for business practice because athletics department it is a business model, And those guarantee games, folks, they're here to stay. I don't hear any more discussion about it. I'll let my colleagues discuss that.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Those guarantee games are here to stay. So get your $1 million, Dr. Scott and Grambling State University. It seems like it'll go into the budget. It'll go back in the general. What is it called, Willa?
General fund.
General fund.
The general funds. I applaud Texas Southern basketball for at least being able to show the average fan playing all those guarantee games and getting some wins in the process, a few. You can see what they do with that. 3, the AD job is tough. And I had a friend tell me, you know what, since the coaches they demand the coaches to bring in a certain amount of money, why not just eliminate the AD position? What? No, that's not going to happen.
No,
That's not going to happen.
Now you can have a 2-1, Carlos, like you got a Bethune-Cookman. You got Reggie Theus, who's the men's basketball coach / AD. And you
let's see what the Bethune-Cookman, any Bethune-Cookman fans or alum watching right now, put it in the chat room. How is that working? I just want to know. I'm not going to give an opinion on it. Let me know how it's working for you.
Yeah, well, I think here of late, over the last few months, when you look up, I see Reggie Theus holding a check. So, I mean, I think Daytona 500 folks have contributed and some folks in Daytona. I mean,
Wait a minute.
All I can go by is what I've seen in pictures. I see him smiling from ear to ear.
Monopoly money, Charles. Monopoly money.
So wait a minute.
You can spend that fat check. You can't spend that big check.
I'm just saying.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Take it to the bank, baby. Take it to the bank.
So you're saying he's out there beating the pavement. He's getting things done, and plus running the basketball team. Is that what you're saying? Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, it looks like from the outside looking in, it looks like something is churning down there in Daytona. I don't know, but all I can say is that when you look up, I just see a big fat check. I see a couple of checks. I don't know what the process behind that. All I know is here, over the last few years, I hadn't seen it. But over the last 6, 7, 8 months, you have seen it.
Don't take it to the bank.
I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's got a team behind him, in front of him doing it. And he just, like Wheeler Brown says, closing the deal. I don't know, but I'm looking at that. I'm like, wow. I mean, because they've been in the news here, for some other stuff. But then you look up and you see a couple of checks, and you're like, okay. So we'll see what goes from there. I mean, they're turning over some dirt, building some stuff. So we'll see how that works in terms of trying to get with their athletic program. But I have respect for every athletic director in this league. Wheeler Brown, I thought came in at Jackson State and did a good job. I thought about it, Wheeler Brown. Were you the AD there when we had in the state of Mississippi? We had some tough budget years, budget cuts, budget free. Yeah. I mean, so Wheeler Brown had to really make a lot of stuff work at Jackson State because we were going through a tough time in our state. Budgets were cut at all of our schools in Mississippi. And so you had to hold forward with what you had, but you still had the expectation of putting out a good product and winning and really extending yourself.
I just wonder, and I think every state, is a little different. Louisiana have had their share. Hell, the new governor they got now, don't get us started on that one. Unbelievable. There are hurdles that you have to overcome, no doubt about it. Seems like Reggie Theus maybe is rolling up his sleeves and is getting to work. He's getting in there and he's throwing haymakers. He's throwing fists. He's laying hands on people. He's going to church, getting everything done.
I don't know.
In the grand scheme of things, some things it's going to stay the same, yet we hope for change. On that note, we're way overdue on the timeout. We'll take a timeout. Richard Morgan Williams will join us. Also, NBA 2024 champions, Boston Celtics. Willie Mays, iconic baseball player, passes away. And then, Another interesting topic: SWAC basketball tournament to expand. Charles. Whoa, I got a couple of ideas about that, but I'll put it out there. But we shall see. Take a time out. You're watching Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Oh, maybe not. Well, we're still here, so we'll get the timeout in when we can get it in. NBA 2024 champions, Boston Celtics MVP, Jaden Brown. Any discussion on that? Any disagreements?
No.
The national prognosticators, oh boy, they were going over a lot of things. Jason Tatum could have been Drew Holiday. I think Mr. Brown, he deserved it. He was the most consistent player. Congratulations to the Boston Celtics. They got it done on their court. Now they're talking about, we always have this talk after a championship, just like the year before. Will it be a dynasty now with Denver? Will the Celtics be a dynasty? Not so fast. Not so fast. But congratulations to the Celtics.
Yep. I must say, ladies and gentlemen, I was wrong. I was one of those who had Dallas. But Boston could come at you with anything they wanted to come at you. What about Pritchard with a couple of half-court shots? Boston was just the better team. Luka's got to get it together, even though he's not in the prime of his career. All that's another discussion for another day. But Boston was really, really good, whether they're starting five or off the bench. I thought Jaylen Brown deserved the MVP, even though Jason Tatum probably felt like he should have been the MVP. But Jaylen Brown was a model of consistency. He was that alpha dog, and so he deserved the MVP. Jason Tatum will have his time. That's a young team. It's an expensive team, so they'll have to continue to watch the financials. But Boston is set up really nicely for the next several years. In the Eastern Division, that's kind of, you got a few teams in there. It's not stacked like the West. I think Boston will have a pretty good run here if they can keep the band together.
Well,
I'm gonna go off script. I'm gonna go off script a little bit, Carlos.
Go ahead.
I read where Detroit fired a coach after 1 year, and they still owe him $65 million. Who does that? Who does that? I mean, geez.
Detroit.
Well,
remember,
we talked about the culture now is you got to win and win quickly. And they're giving out all of this money. Look, Monty, hey, make sure you get all of your money. I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
And he'll get another opportunity. Let me do this. Mr. Richard Morgan Williams, let's add him. We have some kind of a few little issues in the behind the scenes. So if we can add Richard Williams to the conversation. Once again, the Boston Celtics are the 2024 champions. Also, the Lakers have finally hired their guy, JJ Redick. And I have a lot of downtime now in the summer. A lot of teams, well, let me back up. There are some coaches that didn't have prior experience that came in and were successful. Doc Rivers, one. Steve Kerr, another one just off the top of my head. But wow, JJ Redick, Charles, your team is a flat out mess.
Yes,
and I'm glad I left the Lakers when in 2006, and I never looked back.
Yeah. Magic Johnson put out a tweet after the Celtics hoisted the championship, and he said, "Dang, now I can hate Boston again because now the Celtics have one more championship than his team." He's talking about the Lakers, and he's absolutely right. Magic Johnson is absolutely right. Look, if you were going to hire JJ Redick, you should have hired him 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
You're beating all around the mulberry bushes, as the old folks would say. You should have hired JJ 2 months ago. But, you had Hurley's name come up. Where it came from, I don't know. I think it was a lot of misperception out there. Like Hurley was, secretly being talked to behind the scenes. I don't think so. I think JJ's Redick name was there. Then he kind of disappeared, and now you needed a coach. Hurley, two-time national champion, all that. I don't think he was ever going to happen, even though the Lakers pushed for him hard. Look, if it's JJ, fine. Whatever it is, whoever the coach is, get him in there. So that's where I'm disappointed in the process more than the end of it. JJ should have been your coach 2 months ago. We would have been talking about building his roster. And the pundits are saying now, Carlos, all right, Lakers, you got your coach. Now, what is this roster going to look like? The roster's a mess. You're talking about competing in the stacked West. So JJ's got a lot of work to do. Rob Pelinka's got a lot of work to do. Jeannie Buss has a lot of work to do. And if you're talking about competing with the top dogs in the West, the Minnesotas, the Denvers of the world, Houston's coming up. Come on, man. Come on. Let's get to work, because the Lakers got a lot of work to do. And they just traded one of their key pieces to Oklahoma City, which hasn't gotten a lot of traction. So you're talking about roster changes. That might be a change we didn't need to make, but we did.
Who was that?
I forget one of I forgot his name.
Looks like Charles froze up there. Let's see if we can take a break and reset and come back.
Okay, you got me now?
Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Well, let's do this. Let's take a timeout. Because I'll come back to that question, and we got to get Richard Morgan Williams into this conversation as well. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
As technology continues to bring changes to the world of education, it's time we also reimagine teacher professional development. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all learning that can only be accessed at a specific time and place. The Stride PD Center is an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that allow educators to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. The best professional development plans are those that include a level of flexibility and choice for educators. Whether you're a teacher, school, or district, visit us today to take charge of your learning.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. I'm sure we'll have Charles back. Let me bring into the conversation Richard Morgan Williams, and we'll put a hold on the NBA 2024 champions, and we'll talk about Willie Mays, the iconic baseball player that passed away, and then Major League Baseball had a game in Birmingham. I saw Richard. Good afternoon to you, first and foremost. And I saw where you posted some pictures about that historic event. But Willie Mays, what can be said that hasn't been said already? I don't even think it's debatable. I mean, there were a lot of great baseball players from the Negro League, but Willie Mays truly was an iconic figure on and off the baseball diamond. Just kind of some thoughts on the whole scenario with Major League Baseball playing in Birmingham and the passing of Willie Mays?
Well, first, let me say this is my favorite time of the year without a question. I'm glad those finals are over for basketball, and now it's nothing but baseball for the rest of June, July, going into August. So this, for me, is heaven. I know I might be in the minority on that for some people, but this is without a doubt my favorite time of year. Yes, I was down at Rickwood Field, and it was a lot of emotions, especially for the Birmingham area. One of the things that came out of there while we were having the big celebration, the ESPN was building it up, was the interview that Reggie Jackson had. He lit a fire in America that has had a lot of people talking the last couple of days. It is something for, I know, people my age, younger than me, and when we're speaking on the death of Willie Mays at all, from any standpoint, a lot it's harder for the younger generation to actually understand what Willie Mays meant to America at the time. So we're talking, he came to the Giants in 1950, and at the time, you have to realize Major League Baseball was bigger than the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a different time in America where not only was he one of the best players in the league, he's the face of the biggest sports industry in America. And while being that, still has to suffer through the same things that our people were going through in the 50s, in the 60s. The greatest baseball player in New York couldn't eat at every restaurant, couldn't stay in each hotel. And, Reggie Jackson spoke on that specifically. Alex Rodriguez said, that's coming back here, bring back great memories and fond memories of what you experienced. And he said, I don't think you understand what this was. So hearing him speak, and I hope a lot of younger people were able to watch that broadcast to get an idea of what these men went through. And to understand really of what baseball was in the Black community. It's not. I know it's not that anymore at this time, but for the longest, for many generations, for myself, I was raised. My grandfather's the one who gave me the love for baseball, and I'm a big Dodgers fan. And people ask me all the time, "How are you from East Alabama, but you're a Dodgers fan? You must be a bandwagon." I give them the same speech. My wife will roll her eyes when I start going into it. I say, my grandfather was born in Alabama in the 1920s. And in 1947, he found a black man who looked just like him playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And he passed that on to his grandson, 40 years later. And that team stuck with me for the rest of my life. So baseball actually has a deep part and a deep history in the Black community that isn't always at the forefront today, where in our community, basketball and football are more popular and more mainstream than baseball is. So.
And that's interesting because I heard Coach Roger Cater talking locally on a radio interview, and he brought up the point at that time. You're absolutely right. Baseball was the dominant sport, and Willie Mays, as athletic as he was, he could have easily been a football player, a basketball player, but he chose, hey, baseball. And I also remember my dad telling me stories about when he was very young. You would have the Negro Leagues coming in the local areas in the Deep South, and Sundays was a day after church you could very easily see or go to a baseball game where you saw all of those great iconic players. And O'Neal Gilbert is another one. I had the pleasure of interviewing him. Just the stories he told me about baseball and how popular it was with the African American community. And you're right. Me and Coach Cato have talked about now how it's not as it once was, and you have a lot more options with basketball and football. But when he made that point, if Willie was coming along now, he basically would be steered toward football or basketball. But of course, it didn't happen that way. He is one of the faces of baseball in this country.
It even more than just faces of baseball. And you have to realize, too, that in America, Willie Mays may have been our most transcendent athlete for almost the last 60 years. So we're talking about up there with the Michael Jordan and Willie Mays, and there's not too many people left. Hank Aaron passed away a couple years ago. So these are, if Willie Mays is a top 3 baseball player of all time, and that's being very generous to say he's only top 3. I'm telling you, he ain't number 3.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about not just the fact that he's a black baseball player who was transcendent. He is a baseball player that's overall transcended the game almost. So even if you just look at his stats coming into the major leagues when he did, 660 home runs is what we look at. And we remember at that time it was Hank Aaron who passed the 714 by Ruth. But in 52 and 53, he missed most of 1952, all of 53 for his military service. And they extended his numbers for this rate of home runs at the time. He left almost 60 home runs possibly on the board. So if it wasn't for his service in the military, it would have been Willie Mays, the first one who passed Babe Ruth's home run record.
Yeah.
And then we have to adjust for the parks that he played in. I know I'm going deep in the weeds for some people. And I'm 40, but I'm a baseball guy, so I know y'all looking at me like do I know what I'm talking about? But I'm here
go
with
ahead.
that. If you look at the parks that Mays played in most of his career, in New York, the Polo Grounds, and you remember how deep the Polo Grounds, 480 to center. Willie Mays, I think, is one of only 2 players in Major League history to hit 50 home runs in the Polo Grounds.
That's impressive. If you think about it.
Don't remember him being a big guy. And then even worse, as bad as the Polo Grounds was for hitting, the second half of his career, he went to Candlestick Park in San Francisco and hit 50 home runs there, and nobody else had done that. So we're talking about a player who transcended the sport of baseball for what he could do, power. Of course, 660 home runs done to shake a stick at. Also had 300 stolen bases. He led Major League Baseball in home runs 4 times. Also led it in stolen bases 4 times. So the ultimate combination of speed and power, there's only one player of my lifetime that I've seen that can even compare to that, and that's his godson. So to me, and for me personally, Willie Mays and Barry Bonds are 1 and 2 as far as greatest baseball players who have ever lived. Now, we can argue who number 3 is any day. I would say Hank. I would put Hank 3rd. Some people will put Ruth, whatever the case may be. But 1 or 2 are going to be Bonds and Mays for me. And him passing is a huge loss for the baseball community.
Yeah.
And then, Charles, you look at it, the things that he had to go through off the field, back to what Reggie Jackson was talking about. I was born in the year 1964. Even in 1964, there are things that you had to deal with. And they had to deal with it before then. So it's always tough. And when you look at some of the athletes now, do they stand for anything outside of the athletic field? They per se didn't have to go through what the Willie Mays and the Hank Aaron's had to do. Those are strong people, and yet still produced on the field, yet had to fight for everything off the field. It's just interesting. It truly the total package.
Well, for me, you can't look ahead until you look back at what people went through behind you. And so, what Willie Mays went through, and especially Reggie Jackson. I mean, it was so powerful what Reggie Jackson said and how he said it, unfiltered. There was no bleep. I mean, he said it in raw form to where it shook me to the core. And you're talking about Mr. October and Reggie Jackson. I mean, you could kind of see the tension and frustration in his voice even to this day when he talked about it the other day, coming back to Birmingham. And, if you know kind of the history of that a little bit, but when Reggie Jackson told it, couldn't even stay in a hotel, and if he had to, whatever apartment he was in, they were going to burn it down if he continued to stay there. I mean, couldn't eat at a certain place, couldn't hotel. I mean, it was some pretty powerful stuff. You've heard that from other people in other facets, whether it's politics, going back to our older politicians. But for Reggie Jackson to come on, I don't think MLB Network expected that from Reggie Jackson. But in order to understand that he had to say it the way he said it. And so much respect for Reggie Jackson, because I don't know how many other people would have said it in that venue in that moment, because it was all about one thing, but Reggie Jackson really brought it home to me. So when you look at what Willie Mays did and what he had to endure, one of the great baseball players of all time, then you have add Reggie Jackson to it and just the history. I mean, I thought it was a great event, but, you know, I think Reggie Jackson really kind of brought it home, because you have to look back a little bit in terms of seeing where things are going forward, what people had to endure, what our greats had to endure, what Willie Mays had to endure, what Reggie Jackson had to endure, and others. So I was just impressed with the whole thing.
Wheeler?
It's you know, it's tough. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. Now, I'm 68 years old, so you know, I was coming up probably on the fringe end of those, you know, those kinds of times. But I mean, Reggie Jackson just put it out there, you know, unfiltered, straight, no chaser, you know, and America needed to hear that.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people tuned in to listen to him thinking that he was going to sugarcoat things and, oh, I'm so happy to be here, and, you know, couldn't think of any other place in the world I'd rather be, and, you know, all that sort of thing. And he just put it out there, you know. But what amazed me so much was the fact that his teammates went to bat for him, both white and black. You know, a lot of his white teammates wouldn't stay at the hotel if he wasn't allowed to stay there. You know, management, you know, really got behind him and, you know, pretty much did the same thing. And, you know, that was unusual, you know, because, you know, I've read and heard in a lot of instances where, you know, they just dropped their black players off at the black hotel and everybody else go to the Hilton or what have you, and we pick you guys up on the way to the game, and you know, that sort of thing. So, you know, it was eye-opening, no doubt about it, and it was something America needed to hear. Yeah, because in today's date and time, you know, a lot of this stuff is being sugarcoated. You know, books you can't read and things you can't talk about in class and all that sort of thing. So it's healthy for somebody like Reggie Jackson, who had been through those things, to be able to go on national TV and just lay it all out there.
And I wonder, Richard, will he be invited on other outlets where he can discuss some of those things that he went through? And although now there's an old saying, the only thing that's changed now is that the signs have came down, but it's still prevalent through the sports world, through all segments of life. It's still there. It's still there. And now it's probably more devious because the signs have come down, if you get my drift.
Yeah. And the thing is, when we look back at that time in history, our minds always go back to Jackie Robinson, you know, 1947. Mays is 1950. He's only a couple years after him, the Larry Dobies, the Campanellas of the world. Reggie Jackson isn't even 80 years old, if I'm correct. So I think I'd have to look it up. I think he's mid-70s at this point. So we're not talking ancient history. And, you know, myself, and it's many things. But I'm from Alabama. I love this state. I love being from here. But from someone who's from this area, something that we know and we've lived through, that we're not talking ancient history for a lot of things. And try to push it out like it is, like it happened in black and white. This is stuff that was going on in color. He spoke about the 4 little girls in the bombing at the church. That's not that long ago. And when you think about actual history, that we've gone through this. So, and it was it was offhand comment me and one of my friends made. I don't know if you guys know where Rickwood Field is. And we're talking about gentrification and everything, what we go through in America. It said Rickwood Field and the west side of Birmingham hadn't seen that many visitors in 30, 40 years. Alabama and Auburn took the Iron Bowl out of Legion Field.
Yeah.
So we were wondering if they still knew how to get to that side of town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what is that? Jeremiah says it doesn't matter if they don't invite him. SWAC will invite him. Get him on the show, Carlos. What are you talking about?
You man, Carlos. If anybody can talk Reggie Jackson into coming on, it's you.
Oh, well, you know what? Wait a minute. But this topic, I know you have some resources that are still alive that can also talk about it as well. Coach Kador is one. I'm sure all of the head baseball coaches, most of them in the conference, who, can also talk about that as well. But
I thought, Carlos, it was and Richard, it was a tremendous event. Just watching that stadium packed. You talked about the Polo Grounds being 480 to dead center. Rickwood Park, what you see on TV is not the original fence.
That wasn't it. Yes, sir.
450 to dead center. I got a chance to take a tour of it, my first SWAC Digital Network broadcast video. And when you just walk in an empty state, you can just feel the aura of it just being in that ballpark. So to see that place packed, I mean, I thought MLB did a great job on MLB Network and the graphics and all of that. I thought it was a really good event just watching it from afar. I would have loved to be in the stands. You had all the dignitaries. The governor was there. You had you had a celebrity softball game and you had all the other stuff. I thought it was a really good event. And Richard, what do you think? You think it's going to continue? Because now the talk is, can this be a yearly event?
I hope so. I know Major League Baseball has been doing this for a couple of years. I know before they did the Field of Dream game out in Iowa, they did that for a couple of years. They've been expanding out of country for different type games. I know they started this year in Korea. Dodgers and Padres played there. They've done games in Puerto Rico. But if I would love for them to come back for Rickwood for that type of, they're putting this much importance on Negro Leagues, and to show that it's not just we're doing this for this year. We'll move on to the next, whatever. There's a real dedication by Major League Baseball to right certain wrongs for those gentlemen who were at the game. And there's not many of them left, as you can see from watching the game. Yeah. So I pray that it's something that they come back to. The access and the coziness of it was also, if they come back and you guys have the opportunity to come, please make that trip to Birmingham, Alabama. I wish I would have gone live or done more, taking more pictures for you, but we're walking by getting a hot dog, and my buddy he hears a guy say, "Excuse me," he moves out the way. I said, "Hey man, that was just Ryan Howard that was walking by." He was like, "No." And then one of my young guys who I coached, he said, "Man, I was bumping and I accidentally bumped into an older man. I told him I'm sorry, and I kept walking, and I didn't realize that was Reggie Jackson." I was like, "Yeah, man, you should have went back up to him and spoke."
Yeah,
but they were. It was a very cozy atmosphere. And it was, like I said, it was a lot of us, which made me happy. A lot of the younger guys that I know had their little league teams out there. So there are 4 or 5 ball teams of, all black ball teams who had the opportunity to see a major league game being played in their backyard. And the only bigger thing one day is I hope to see that it'll be more than 2 or 3 black kids on that field one day. So I know the Cardinals had Mason Wynn at shortstop, and they had, I think their center fielder is also a African American. So I know there weren't a lot of us on the field, but we were well represented. And then the entire umpire unit for the first time ever was black. Yeah. So they're making steps. I know we want to get that percentage up, and we have ball players coming through the pipeline who just have not made it to the highest level yet. But hopefully it'll come, and like I said, I hope you see it on Rickwood Field.
Yeah, it's an opportunity, I think, to have them back and then expand it. I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you guys talk about it. I don't know if there's ever been a conversation, probably have, I just can't remember, where you can have participating colleges in their event in Birmingham. I know, we've talked about in the past, the SWAC MEAC Challenge and basketball. You kind of have it in football, but, to a certain extent, more as far as baseball. having more inclusivity with from the high school. I mean, it's just it's ways that you can go with this and add on to what you already have. On that note, let's take another time out. When we come back, Richard, you can continue to stay on or stay with us. We want to get into another topic, and it's SWAC related coming up. SWAC basketball tournament to expand. Whoa, boy. Whoa, Nelly. Sometimes change is not easy. Sometimes change is difficult. But the question is, to expand or not to expand? That is the question. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong. Go get 'em. It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm. Hello, clean bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coach Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. What's trending? Our last topic, SWAC basketball tournament to expand. And Charles, you sent me a text message this week. Your sources said that, and I did keep the text message, that the tournament, well, first and foremost, remember the women's basketball schedule that you had talked about earlier? And correct me if I'm wrong, that has been approved, correct?
Yeah, this is kind of a 3-prong approach when it comes to SWAC basketball. So yeah, let's start with that. My source told me that the women's schedule or plan on Thursdays and Saturdays, that has been approved.
Okay.
It is overwhelmingly. Now, there was some just discussion from what I was told that there were a couple of presidents that were kind of on the fence in terms of this proposal because of scheduling and maybe finances, but I was told it was a slam dunk. So as far as what the presidents approved. So starting next season, The women will have their own day on Thursdays. You'll have a men-women doubleheader on Saturdays. And then the men will play on Mondays, men only. So that is approved.
Okay, so that is a yes.
That will be a yes. The other part of it is SWAC tournament expansion. You know, for many years, 8 of the 12 teams go, 4 don't. Starting next season, from what I've been told, the tournament will expand from 8 teams to 10 teams. So starting next SWAC tournament, 10 teams of the 12 will go, 2 will not. I was also told, this is 2024, so 2026, I was told that the tournament will expand to all teams will be eligible for the SWAC basketball tournament in 2026.
Stop right there. You know I'm opinionated. Wheeler, first thing I thought about, Charles, was, okay, you're expanding to 10, okay? Got to be voted on, right? Got to be approved. Okay. It's kind of in the conversation piece right now and study, right? Then it could be the possibility of going to 12 teams, everybody in. First thing I thought about was, okay, I've always been a champion, and I try to be consistent about the regular season. To me, it doesn't, it devalues that. If I can't think of a better word. If I can, I'll come back and change it. Then I happen to be listening to a local radio interview. Will Wade, who's now at McNeese. You remember the last time Coach Johnson was on, they were talking about a series with McNeese, right? Okay. So I was thinking about that as well as I'm driving. In the Southland, they have 8 teams that participate. But he said they have a double bye. The regular season champion and the runner-up, they automatically move to the next round. So I'm going to try to tie all of this in. With that being said, 10 teams, for the record, I kind of like it at 8. But if you go to 10, it's voted on. It's a democratic process. Then you have to go with 10. But 12, come on, Charles. Everybody invited. I don't like that. But the regular season. Now, people are going to come back and say, how is it devalued if you're expanding the tournament? If none of us can get in, then all of us can get in. But 10 teams, would you support? It's just conversation piece. Would you be in support of regular season champion, at least in the run-up, being rewarded by playing less games in the tournament? Somebody, anybody, come on, somebody.
Wheeler, what do you think as an administrator having 10 of the 12?
My thought is, I'm not dead set against it as long as it's in the same format in terms of the first round being at the higher seeds. If we're going back to where everybody came to a central location and then you battled it out at that central location, then I'd have an issue with that because that's where your costs skyrocket. But if you're talking about, the first round being held at the site of the higher seeds, then I guess I can kind of live with that and live with the rationale in terms of everybody getting an opportunity to participate in the postseason. At least it's not hurting me as much in terms of expenses. I always got to kind of keep an eye out on the bottom line, and then we can try to make it work from there. But I think it's fine the way it is right now. But I can understand more teams wanting to be able to participate, feeling like they're a part of the tournament, that sort of thing. My answer to that is just get better during the regular season and be in the top 8. And then you don't have that you don't have that particular issue. So as long as they're not pushing everybody to one site and everything is being held at that one site, so you're forcing the number 12 team to have to book rooms almost for the entire week, even though they'll probably only be there a night or two at best, then I can see it working. But outside of that, it's gonna be rough.
Well, I hate to break the bad news to you, Willie. I hate to break the bad news to you that even though it sounds good in theory, and your point is well taken, the oxygen for going back to those satellite games, it's not going to happen.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, you're going to 10 teams next year. In 2 years, you'll have all 12 teams that will be there. But there's also, I'm hearing, and the commissioner talked about this, the softball tournament, and fans have chimed in about whether the tournament will stay in Birmingham or whether it will move to another location. There's only been one other location being discussed, and that's Atlanta. And what I've been told is that there is very, very strong support for Atlanta. And don't be surprised that Atlanta will be the next site of the SWAC basketball tournament going forward. At the home of the Atlanta Dream, where the Dream play, that's where the tournament will be. So don't be surprised if that happens. Nothing official as of yet. This is just a scuttlebutt that I'm hearing that number one, the tournament will expand. And number two, you got everyone in. And the reason for this, guys, from what I've been told, student athletes have stressed the importance of being a part of the tournament experience. And I know the commissioner has kind of talked about student athlete experience. So maybe in years past, that wasn't as big of a deal. But now student athletes, regardless of record and conference, want to be a part of the SWAC tournament experience. And now you've got new ADs, you've got different line of thinking. And so from what I've been told, the student athletes really wanted to push to have all the teams go to the SWAC tournament.
My thing, if you want to participate,
they're going to listen to them now. Finally, huh?
If you want to participate, get better. Get better. Get better, compete better. So that you can get up in that crew that looks to go. Now the conference office is in Birmingham, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if I'm Birmingham, okay, and I'm doing all these things to attract the conference office to Birmingham, I want as many of the conference championships in my city as possible. That should be one of the caveats for being the host of the conference office. So for me to move, and I'm going to say everything to Atlanta, but it just seems or appears to be like, Atlanta is the destination for all the SWAC championships, then at some point in time, the conference office is going to move to Atlanta. Or, if I'm Birmingham, I'm a little upset about that. I'd like to keep that money, keep that financial windfall in my city, if at all possible.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's just me. I don't know.
No, you have a really good point because, at once for a long time, the SWAC office was where? New Orleans. For those who might not know, the SWAC office used to be in New Orleans. And growing up, I used to think that, well, maybe the SWAC should have all their championships in New Orleans because that's where the SWAC office was. You had the SWAC Spring Sports Championship way back 30 years ago. You had baseball, softball, track, all that in New Orleans because that's where the SWAC offices were. Then they moved to Birmingham, and there was a push to have a lot of the championships in Birmingham. Don't know what happened, don't know what broke down, but to your point, if we're moving to Atlanta, the Celebration Bowl's in Atlanta, the baseball tournament is in Atlanta. It appears as if the basketball tournament might be moving to Atlanta. Now we're going to see, how this thing's going to shape in terms of moving championships around. And Carlos, I reeled off 9 places where the basketball tournament has been over the last 30-some years. It's been in Louisiana in 3 different places. It's been in Mississippi in 2 different locations. It's been in Alabama in 2 different locations, at Alabama State and Birmingham. We've been in Garland, Texas. We're at a high school gym in somewhere in Dallas way back when. we've been all over the place. And the question is, out of all those cities, you've had three major markets, potentially Atlanta, you got Houston and Dallas. Will the tournament stick and stay somewhere when you've been in three top 10 markets? We hope Atlanta will stick, but now we're moving towards Atlanta now all of a sudden, and now we'll see if that makes. But interesting conversation, because there's no SWAC school in Atlanta, as we all know, and that's been in the chat rooms, that's been discussed, that's been cussed and discussed, as a former teacher once told me. So we'll see if this thing takes off. You got a major media market, you got a lot of alums in Atlanta, and so now if this happens, we'll see if the basketball tournament gains that traction.
Richard, I don't know. We kind of got to the point where location is going to be, but I want to get back to the expansion of these teams. And I had to pull out a message, and we give credit where credit is due. Dr. Kenyatta Cavillo, he said it would be an incentive for the top two regular season finishers in league play. But for example, he would want to know, is it based on increasing the pool of teams involved to help incentivize the city financing the tournament with having more teams involved to increase hotel room counts and food expenses? Is it to increase fan involvement? Is it simply to give more teams a chance to win the tournament? Is it based on percentage of teams eligible after league expansion? And then he puts i.e. 8 of 10 equals 80%. 10 of 12, 83%. I'm still, Richard, saying that if it goes through the process and it goes to 10, okay, I'll accept that. I'm in favor of keeping it as is. Charles mentioned about the student athletes and the student experience. But I don't want left out of this conversation is this point. Back to, should the regular season champion and the run-up be rewarded for going through a tough regular season? And then will we expand the softball tournament? Is that coming next? Will the baseball tournament, will it be expanded and let everybody in? I think it devalues the regular season champion. And I'm always, I'm for that. But anyway, it's a little different now, Richard. When I was coming up, you didn't get a trophy for the fourth place team, the third, or the second.
No,
the experience the experience was just participating in the tournament, and the reward was given to the first place, maybe second, but it was incentives to next year come back and say, I'm getting that trophy. I'm kicking that door in. Again, if you expand, fine, but 12, come on. No. And then 10, I'm for 10, but it has to be some incentives for the regular season champions to be rewarded for having gone through the regular season and winning that. Go ahead, Richard. I'm sorry for being long-winded.
No, it's all. I look on both ways as an athlete and as a fan and a supporter of these institutions. So on one end, as a player, yes, it does devalue what you're doing during the regular season, especially in our sports where you only get one automatic bid. So in basketball, we're only going to get one. You don't even really get to go to the tournament anymore. You're going pretty much to the play-in game. Most of the time, it seems like for us. It's the same for in baseball. So now there's more an opportunity for a team that didn't put forth the same effort that you did during the regular season to knock you off. Now, some could say, you're going to be playing a lower-ranked team. I mean, things do happen, but there's more opportunity. Why are you playing so hard during the regular season to try to achieve a number 1 or number 2 seed? But also from the fan end, how does the SWAC have an opportunity to almost get something like the CIAA has? That type of can we turn our basketball tournaments into that big of a he's over there shaking his head like no. Bringing more teams in on the fan, more support for these universities. I can see that, but as an athlete, I'm not a fan of expansion.
That's 50 years. That's 50, 60 years worth of partying.
Yes, but it had to start. It had to start somewhere, right?
That was built up over decades.
Yeah.
Centuries almost. But Carlos, my thing is this, okay? Why should the second place team get the same reward as the first place team?
Well,
so why should the second place team get a bye? That to me makes no sense at all. You rewarding second best. Second best shouldn't be rewarded.
Well, you're rewarding everybody else if you expand it.
The top squad, fine. Give them that first round bye or what have you. Move them on to the second round. Okay, but the second place team, damn it, you in second place. Come on now. I ain't treating you like you came in first.
Well, why not? If you're gonna let two more teams from that position at the bottom in,
and the tournament is still being held during a lot of schools' spring break week. So I kind of question how many student athletes really voice their opinion on it, knowing that they're giving up spring break week. You know, kids looking forward to that, like the end of the school year.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
I think that is a point.
Hold up, Charles. I don't mean to interrupt you. We're at 12:59. The producer says no time for individual closeouts. I take that with a strong reprimand. We're gonna close out today's show. We appreciate everyone. A lot of topics we went over. Keep the conversations going, and make sure you tune in next Saturday at 11 a.m. for another edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until that time, peace and God bless.